The rain had a way of making everything look cleaner than it really was. Streets shimmered, blood washed away, and sins, at least for a moment, seemed forgiven. But not tonight. Arman stood beneath a flickering streetlight, his coat soaked through, his eyes fixed on the old warehouse across the road. Beside him, Raza lit a cigarette, the flame briefly illuminating the scars on his face, each one a story, each one a reminder. 10 years, Raza muttered, exhaling slowly. 10 years we waited for this. Arman didn't respond immediately. His jaw tightened as memories clawed their way back. Fire, screams, betrayal. Not waited, Arman finally said. Prepared. 10 years ago, they were brothers in everything but blood. They worked for a man named Hakim, a businessman to the world, but in reality, a kingpin who controlled half the city's underworld. Arman was the strategist. Calm, calculating. Raza was the enforcer. Fierce, unstoppable. Together, they were unstoppable. Until the night everything burned. Hakim had called them to the warehouse, the same one now standing across the street. Said there was a job, a big one. But when they arrived, something felt off. Too quiet. Too empty. Then the doors slammed shut behind them. Gunshots echoed. Men they once called allies turned their weapons on them. It was an ambush. Raza fought like a beast, taking bullets, breaking bones. Arman tried to find a way out, his mind racing for an escape. But the worst betrayal wasn't the bullets. It was Hakim, standing above them, watching. You've become liabilities, he had said coldly. And liabilities must be erased. Arman was knocked unconscious. Raza, left for dead in the flames. But death didn't take them. It reshaped them. Arman woke up weeks later in a remote clinic, his body broken but his mind sharper than ever. He learned quickly about Hakim's expanding empire, about the lies spread about their deaths, about the power that betrayal had given him. Raza survived too. Barely. Pulled from the ruins by a stranger who didn't ask questions. His body healed, but the fire left its mark on his skin, on his soul. For years, they stayed in the shadows. Watching. Learning. Building. Arman became a ghost in the system, hacking accounts, tracking shipments, dismantling pieces of Hakim's empire one by one. Raza became a rumor, a man who appeared in the night, destroying operations, leaving behind only fear. They didn't rush. Because revenge, Arman believed, was not about rage. It was about timing. And now, the time had come. Raza flicked his cigarette into the puddle and crushed it under his boot. So, how do you want to do this? Arman's eyes never left the warehouse. We take everything from him. Raza smirked. And then? Arman finally looked at him. Then we take him. Inside the warehouse, Hakim sat at a long table, surrounded by guards. Older now, heavier, but his eyes still held that same cold calculation. Everything is in place? He asked. One of his men nodded. Yes, sir. The deal goes through tonight. Hakim leaned back. Good. After this, there will be no one left to challenge us. A faint smile crossed his lips. But outside, the storm was just beginning. The first explosion shattered the silence. A section of the warehouse wall blew inward, sending guards scrambling. What the hell? One of them shouted. Before he could finish, the lights went out. Darkness swallowed the room. Then came the screams. Raza moved through the shadows like a predator. Every movement precise, every strike brutal. Guards fell one by one, barely able to react. Meanwhile, Arman sat in a van across the street, his laptop glowing in the dark. Security cameras offline, he murmured. Communications jammed. Exit routes sealed. He glanced at the warehouse. Nowhere to run, Hakim. Inside, chaos reigned. Hakim was rushed toward a hidden exit, his guards forming a protective circle. Get me out of here, he barked. But as they reached the door, it slammed shut. Locked. A slow clap echoed from the darkness. Hakim froze. No, he whispered. Two figures stepped into the faint emergency light. Arman. Raza. Alive. Impossible. You, Hakim's voice trembled for the first time in years. I made sure. That we were dead? Arman finished calmly. Yes. You tried. Raza cracked his knuckles, stepping forward. You should have tried harder. The guards opened fire. Bullets flew, but Arman and Raza moved as one. Years of training, years of planning, it all came down to this moment. Within seconds, the guards were down. Silence returned. Only the sound of rain against the broken roof remained. Hakim stumbled back, his confidence shattered. You don't understand, he said desperately. I did what I had to do. It was business. Business? Raza's voice was low, dangerous. You burned us alive. Arman raised a hand, stopping Raza from advancing further. This isn't about anger, Arman said softly. If it were, you'd already be dead. Hakim swallowed hard. Then what do you want? Arman stepped closer, his eyes cold. Everything you built is gone. Hakim shook his head. That's not possible. It is, Arman interrupted. Your accounts emptied. Your shipments seized. Your allies turned against you. He leaned in slightly. You're not a king anymore, Hakim. Raza smiled darkly. You're nothing. For the first time, Hakim looked small. Broken. Defeated. Please, he whispered. We can fix this. We can work together again. Raza laughed. Work with you? Arman shook his head. No. He turned away. End it. Raza stepped forward, but paused. Not out of hesitation. But realization. All these years, he said quietly. I thought killing you would make it right. Hakim looked up, hope flickering. Yes, it will. Raza shook his head. No. He lowered his weapon. It won't. Hakim blinked, confused. Before he could speak again, sirens echoed in the distance. Police. Arman had planned that too. Raza stepped back. You don't get to die, he said coldly. You get to live with what you did. Arman looked over his shoulder. Justice is slower than revenge, he said. But it lasts longer. As they walked out of the warehouse, leaving Hakim behind, the rain began to ease. For the first time in 10 years, the weight on their shoulders felt lighter. Raza glanced at Arman. So, what now? Arman looked up at the clearing sky. Now, he said, we live. Raza smirked slightly. Took us long enough. They disappeared into the night, not as victims, not as ghosts, but as men who had faced the fire. And walked out stronger. End.